You know, most empires, they rise, they have their moment, and then they fall, usually within a few centuries. But there was one civilization that just seemed to play by a completely different set of rules, one that held on to its core identity for an almost unbelievable amount of time. We are, of course, talking about ancient Egypt, so let's dive into this and figure out, how on earth did they do it?
3,000 years. Seriously, just let that number sink in for a second. That's 30 centuries. While other great empires were being born, conquering their neighbors and crumbling into dust, Egypt just kept going. Dynasties changed, wars were fought, but the fundamental blueprint of the nation, its culture, its gods, it all stayed remarkably the same. It's just a staggering feat of stability.
So that brings us right to the big question, the mystery we're unpacking here. How was that even possible? What was the secret sauce that let a single culture keep its language, its religion, and its entire system of government running for 3,000 years? Well, it turns out it wasn't just luck or military might, it was something much deeper, like a deeply embedded operating system for their entire reality.
And that whole operating system, that entire way of seeing the world, it all starts with the Nile River. See, for the Egyptians, the Nile wasn't just a source of water. Its predictable, reliable, life-giving flood every single year was proof. It was proof of a perfect, divine order that was built right into the fabric of the universe from the moment of creation.
And you can really see how unique this mindset was when you put it side by side with their neighbors over in Mesopotamia. For them, the world was born from this violent, terrifying chaos of warring gods. Humans, well, they were basically just there to serve and try to keep these angry, unpredictable deities happy. But for the Egyptians, it was the complete opposite. They believed the world was created in a state of absolute, perfect order. And humanity's job wasn't to calm down angry gods, but to actively work to maintain that beautiful, cosmic balance.
Now this central belief, this idea of a perfect underlying order, it had a name. And this name is the absolute key to understanding pretty much everything about ancient Egypt. They called it Ma'at.
So, what exactly is Ma'at? Well, it's a tricky concept to pin down with just one word. On one hand, she was a goddess, the one you see with a single ostrich feather in her hair. But Ma'at was also the divine principle of order, truth, justice, and cosmic harmony, all rolled into one. The key thing to get is that it wasn't a set of laws designed to create order. It was the fundamental, perfect state of the universe that it was everyone's job to preserve.
And you can see just how deeply personal and high stakes this idea of Ma'at was when it came to the afterlife. As this famous line from the Book of the Dead tells us, after you died, your heart, which they believed held the record of every good and bad thing you ever did, was placed on a scale. And what was on the other side? Not some heavy weight, but the single, light, delicate feather of Ma'at. If your heart was heavy with chaos and disorder, well, that was it for you. No afterlife.
And here's the thing. Ma'at wasn't just some abstract philosophical idea. It was the practical foundation for absolutely everything. It was the basis for every law. It was the benchmark for what made a good ruler. It was the moral compass for every single person. And as we just saw, it was the final exam after you died. It touched every single part of their society.
Okay, so if Ma'at is the operating system, who's the one in charge of making sure it doesn't crash? In Egypt, that was the Pharaoh. His job wasn't really to be a conqueror or a tyrant. His most sacred duty was to be the primary human link in a cosmic chain, the person responsible for maintaining Ma'at here on Earth.
And this wasn't just some campaign promise. It was literally the pharaoh's job description. When he took the throne, this is what he would declare. His entire reign, every single decision he made, was framed as an act of pushing back chaos and restoring the cosmic balance that Ma'at represented.
And when you look at his duties, they were all aimed at this one massive goal. As the high priest, he was the only one who could talk directly to the gods to keep things harmonious. As the chief administrator, he organized society from farming to taxes to reflect that divine order. And as the military leader, his job was to literally defend the ordered, perfect land of Egypt from the chaos of the outside world. All three jobs served one master, Ma'at.
Now, this entire belief system wasn't just something they thought about, they made it physical. The Egyptians didn't just believe in Ma'at, they literally carved it into stone. Their architecture, and especially their temples, weren't just buildings for worship. They were physical models of the entire universe, a manifestation of cosmic order made real.
The whole philosophy was to make the world down here reflect the perfect world of the gods up there. So, cities were often laid out to mirror star constellations, and at the center of it all, you'd find the temple. The temple was seen as a microcosm of the entire world at the very moment of creation. It was the nucleus of order from which all of civilization radiated.
In fact, walking into a temple was designed to be a symbolic journey. You'd start in the big, bright, open outer courts, which represented the messy, chaotic world outside. Then you'd move into the incredible hypostyle hall, a dense forest of massive columns, symbolizing the ordered, structured world of nature. And finally, you'd reach the small, dark, inner sanctum, the very heart of creation itself, where only the Pharaoh could go to commune with the god.
Okay, so you've got a cosmic principle, a divine ruler to enforce it, and massive stone architecture to model it. But how do you keep a system like that going for 3,000 years? That brings us to the final and maybe most important piece of the puzzle, the technology of writing.
You see, to the Egyptians, hieroglyphs were so much more than just an alphabet. They called them medut necher, which literally means the words of the gods. Every single symbol wasn't just a sound. It was a tiny piece of the divine world itself, a powerful link between the human and the sacred. For them, writing was basically a form of magic.
And this idea is just so beautifully captured in one of their ancient texts. While a warrior might change the world with a sword, it's the scribe who maintains the world with a feather. Just think about that image for a second, a feather. The exact same symbol as the feather of Ma'at. The scribe's job was to use the divine words to keep the world in perfect, delicate balance.
And that was the ultimate power of the scribe and their craft. In a universe where chaos was always threatening to creep in, where things decay and are forgotten, writing was the ultimate weapon. To write something down, a law, a prayer, a king's name, was to impose order on it, to make it permanent, and to ensure that the principles of Ma'at would endure forever. Which, of course, brings us to the final big thought. The very system that gave Egypt its unbelievable 1,000-year stability, this core belief in a perfect, unchanging, divinely ordered world, well, it also became its greatest vulnerability. So I'll just leave you with this question to chew on. What happens when a civilization built on the idea of perfect, unchanging order finally runs into a world that absolutely refuses to stand still?